So Pakistan is now trying to wash its hands off, but can Pakistan do that? I have a fine panel, a very fine panel of experts joining me on this special broadcast. I have PK Jain, additional DGP, former additional DGP of Special Operations Maharashtra Police joining me on this show. I have Ratan Sharda joining me on this show. Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. He joins me on this broadcast. And let me begin by asking you, Mr. Jain, how crucial in your appreciation will the interrogation of Tahawwur Hussain Rana be? Because right now Pakistan says he is not ours. Whatever he may have done has nothing to do with Pakistan. Or words to that effect, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for having me here. See, what else do you expect from Pakistan? Has Pakistan ever accepted any responsibility or any moral responsibility for their actions which they have been doing against the Indian nation for decades? Ever since 1947, for that matter. So expecting Pakistan to accept its misdeeds I'm not seeing it happening at all. We have got Dawood Ibrahim, we have got n number of people. The entire conspiracy was exposed and even has gone through the judicial scrutiny system of the of India, and Kasab was convicted and hanged. Everything has been proved beyond doubt. Now, whatever evidence we kept before the US to show that Tahawwur Rana and David Coleman Headley were involved in this entire conspiracy and attack on India, in which number of foreign nationals were also killed, it has been shown. That's why probably this extradition has taken place, in addition to whatever is the anatomy between Mr. Modi and the US president. So all those things are responsible, but we have given a good dossier to US. We've given very many dossiers to Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan has used those dossiers to punish those people from whom they suspected the information leaked. So you don't expect anything from Pakistan at all. Now, coming to Tahawwur Rana, the man is going to be a gold mine of information for the Indian intelligence agencies. It is not that the case is now 17 years old. It is a question of that the person was very thickly networked into the ISI, into the government of Pakistan, and also lashkar-e-taiba. So all these three agencies are actively, even today, pursuing a line where they want to damage this country in a low-cost warfare, that is sending terrorists across the
can you explain? That's a very important thing you've said. Before I bring in Sushant Sareen and Ratan Sharda, you said he was thickly networked in ISI and LET. How can we, conclude that on the basis of what investigation in your appreciation, sir?
See, it is like this. He has been found guilty even in the US. He was convicted there. And then he was convicted for another offense, which when they were trying to cause some terrorist activities in Denmark. So he has a history to himself. Now, the very fact that on the basis of the information that the government of India has been able to furnish to the courts in the US, as well as the US administration, that finally we are seeing the day when this man has been brought to India. There is a lot of evidence against him. There are 279 or 280 calls between David Coleman and this fellow when this entire attack was taking place, and prior to that. So he was in touch with David Coleman, who came and wrecked all the places and drafted a plan as to how the terrorists would come, land in Mumbai, go to which all places. I mean, they did not fumble. They straight went to Leopold Cafe. They straight went to Taj Hotel. They straight went to the other two places, VT Station as well as Hotel Oberoi. So the entire thing was chalked out in detail. The logistic support of their coming to Mumbai and David Coleman coming to Mumbai, he's getting a fake passport in the sense that with forged credentials or with false credentials. That was all these things were managed by him. And today to Pakistan to say and deny that for 2 decades he's not been in touch with Pakistan, he's not renewed, it's all a sham. You've already said it you very rightly pointed out that Pakistan, there's always an element, they will keep an element of deniability. In all such cases where you have people operating like this, the element of deniability is always maintained by the governments and the intelligence agencies. So,
but that is the big challenge now, Sushant Sareen. Sir, you've raised a very pertinent point. And Sushant Sareen, that's the challenge to break through that deniability of Pakistani deep state and government, because they're very brazen about it. I think they think India is so weak that they're brazen enough for Major Iqbal to be so openly in touch with Tahawwur Hussain Rana and David Coleman Headley, and Hafiz Saeed to meet David Headley, knowing that he's a double agent with the Americans. So Sushant Sareen, one, what do you make of the Pakistani Foreign Office denial and the fact that this Rana is being now extradited to India?
Gaurav, I think the denial was only to be expected. In fact, last night also I told you that this was one of my first talking points, that they are going to blankly deny, and they will make that same excuse that he was no longer a Pakistani national, he's a Canadian national, basically in a manner of speaking, throwing the Canadians under the bus, which I have no problems with. My only problem is with the Pakistani denials. But then Pakistan is such a shameless country that I don't expect anything better from them. You know, all that crocodile tears that all that third-rate so-called liberals like the Sethi and the Meers and what have you will say about what has happened on 26/11. I don't buy that at all, right? They are all cut from the same cloth. Number one. Number two, please remember that we also made a mistake as 26/11 was happening. On the very next day, the statement which was coming out from the Indian side officials was that we suspect non-state actors from Pakistan. Now, it is inconceivable that an attack of this magnitude could have been mounted by so-called non-state actors. Number one, Gaurav, let's be very clear. There are no non-state actors. All of these so-called non-state actors are only created to give some degree of deniability to the state. Remember also that the then army chief had been the ISI chief, Ashfaq Kiani, at the time this plot was hatched. And they used a journalist by the name of Salim Shehzad, whom the ISI later bumped off. They used that guy to come out with a story that, you know, this plan had been prepared, but it was only on the drawing board, and that plan had been stolen by the Al-Qaeda and the LAT guys, and they put it into operation, and these Pakistani ISI guys were simply sucking lollipops and did not know what the hell happened. But we have evidence that there were serving ISI officers involved. There were ISI bases which were used along the coast of Sindh to train some of these guys. All of that information is available. So there is no real deniability, despite a third-rate retired air marshal like Shehzad Chaudhry writing articles that, you know, we still have doubts about what happened on 26/11, or that bigoted fellow Abdul Basit, you know, who keeps coming and talking about, we don't know what happened on 26/11. Everybody knows what happened. That's the second part. The third part of it is that they tried to create this charade. One was, of course, that, you know, the strings, the Kalava strings that they were wearing. And Gaurav, if you go back, you check out the old footage from the Pakistani television of those days. The Pakistani first 2 or 3 days when identification had not been done of these terrorists, the Pakistanis were saying, well, this, you know, Kalava is a Hindu thing. This has been made by, you know, this probably a Hindu terror organization. That was one. Secondly, there is a third-rate journalist, Talat Hussain. He started interviewing this third-rate lawyer who claimed Kasab was actually a nice guy working in Nepal, and he had been kidnapped by Ra to bring him to India so that they can plant him out here. That was the second. The third thing these fellows did was that when that conversation was going on between Sajid Mir and some of these terrorists in the Chabad house,
in the Chabad house,
and they were training these guys to speak in an Indian accent. But a Punjabi can't speak in an Indian accent to save his life, especially a Pakistani
By the way,
Muslim.
we have those audio clips, if it's legally permitted, and I've done a full show on that audio on that audio conversation that was happening in that control room in Karachi and Mumbai. You know, when the terrorists, when they saw helicopters coming in and NSG dropping down on that Chabad house, they panicked. So they called Pakistan, ki ab kya kare, we are about to be killed. And they said, X banao, X bana ke fire karo. I remember that. I was there covering that Chabad house the very next morning. But stay with me, you've raised a very pertinent point.
Allow me a half a minute. At that point of time, what they tried to initially pretend is that these are Indian Mujahideen terrorists, right?
Yes.
And then later on, they decided, okay, forget the Indian Mujahideen thing. Let's try and give it a Hindu angle. And adding to that Hindu angle thing, they had their own people out here who were holding press conferences and writing books talking about RSS ki sazish. They were
You know, since
Bollywood
you've mentioned this,
directors
let's talk
who were
about this
talking
in
about
greater
it. They were
detail.
serving politicians talking about it. So they had their own people batting for them in India. So why do you need terrorists from Pakistan when you have traitors from India, holding the Pakistani line and spreading it out here, the Pakistani narrative? That is what happened on 26/11. It's unfortunate.
That's a very
but-
serious point you make. I have Mr. Jain with me, I have Ratan Sharda with me, and let's talk about this in greater detail since you've raised it, Sushant Sareen, for the benefit of our viewers and especially for the benefit of our younger viewers. It's been 17 years since 26/11, so you must hear this. Tahawwur Hussain Rana's interrogation is expected to shed light on terror sleeper cells in India. Interrogators are also expected to learn more about this bogey of Hindu terror that was systematically plotted and spread through these 10 Pakistani terrorists who attacked Mumbai during 26/11. The year was 2008. Now, what was this bogey of Hindu terror? Probe reveals how David Coleman Headley brought Kalava. You understand Kalava? It's that sacred thread we wear. Now, David Coleman Headley bought Kalava, or that sacred thread, from Siddhivinayak temple in Mumbai. The probe revealed how Pakistan tried to palm off 26/11 as a Hindu terror attack. David Headley revealed that Hindu terror camouflage was to be given to this terror attack. So what did investigators find out? That Ajmal Amir Kassab and 9 other terrorists who came with him all carried fake identity cards, all with Hindu names. So former NIA Inspector General Loknath Behra, he also revealed Rana's terror plan. The probe officer in 26/11 case revealed how Rana carried out a recce, not just in Mumbai or Kochi, but he also wanted communal violence in India. That was Pakistan's evil plan. So he traveled to the Pushkar Mela in Rajasthan, and he thought a terror attack could be carried out in Pushkar. He then traveled to Haridwar. Why would he travel to Haridwar? Because according to Loknath Behra in his investigations, and he was IG NIA at that time, their plan was to target the Kumbh Mela. They also traveled to Kochi. Rana traveled to Kochi with his wife. Why? They wanted to set up an office there. Kochi is the Southern Naval Command. Kochi also has a shipyard. It has strategic vital assets and vital points of the Indian Armed Forces. They wanted to carry out recce. So they hired people there. Who were the people who were hired? There are many, many questions that need to be answered. I spoke to Loknath Behra just a short while back. Listen in. How crucial is Tahawwur Hussain Rana being brought to India for interrogation in your appreciation, sir? What are we likely to find out?
See, actually, he is a very, very key player because if you remember, in 2011, we actually in the National Investigation Special Court, we charge sheeted him in Delhi for the larger conspiracy behind Mumbai attack.
Yes.
See, his coming will be actually filling some of the missing links and the blanks in this particular case. I personally feel that maybe some other names may crop up.
Very interesting. Names like names of people, like names in India or names in Pakistan?
Both. I mean, because if you see, Rana used to travel quite a bit. He even came to Cochin.
Yes.
So you don't know, actually, by that time, we had never gotten access to Rana to interrogate, unlike Headley. So many of the things will be brought out by our very competent agencies like NIA and others, and even Mumbai police. So I will not be surprised that some new names also come up.
You had investigated this case very extensively, including Tahawwur Hussain Rana's visit to Cochin. What was his interest in Cochin? What did he want to bomb there?
I see, Cochin is a very strategic place. We are little worried about, actually, see, it has Southern Naval Command, the shipyard, all strategic installations are here. So we were worried, and he actually did interview in a hotel which is very near to the waterfront. So that time, but we never knew, because we never knew, actually, we did not get chance to speak to him. Now there is a chance that he probably this part Headley also also did not say us. So whether he had recceived any place in Cochin. So that can be actually extracted from him.
Sir, I was reporting in Chicago and we knew of places like NDC, National Defense College in Delhi. We knew about Siddhivinayak Temple in Mumbai. The Cochin, naval base, some information had filtered out. What else? What were the other locations that they were wrecking for further attacks? Because I believe Hafiz Saeed had told them that you have to repeatedly attack India. And even after 26/11, their wrecking continued, sir, till the time he was arrested in America at the O'Hare airport, if I remember correctly.
If I correctly remember, they were talking about Kumbh Mela. Something like that. Yeah, so that time I remember that particular thing. He was taking that these people who are actually coming to Haridwar and all. And also they went to Pushkar. Pushkar is one of the targets. Other things I'm not able to remember.
So whether it's a highly educated Pakistani medical doctor like Tahawwur Hussain Rana or a David Coleman Headley or an illiterate Ajmal Amir Kasab, the mindset is the same. Ghazwa Hind, they want to bleed India through 1,000 cuts and target kafirs in India. I wonder if people after 26/11 woke up, or do we continue, at least elements in our society, continue to sleepwalk through Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. Now I want to get you some details that emerge from investigations. It's not source-based information. Each thing is attributed either to Federal Bureau of Investigation or National Investigation Agency or Rakesh Maria in his book. Listen in. So David Coleman Headley told his interrogators, and I quote, "I purchased the red and yellow wristband. I forget its name. I bought it so that the 10 youth could wear it as a cover so that people would think they're Indians," unquote. Ajmal Amir Kasab was not only given the Kalawa, he was also given a Hindu identity card. Now, Rakesh Maria, then former Mumbai commissioner, he was earlier crime branch chief, he was one of the chief interrogators and the person who first interrogated Ajmal Amir Kasab. Well, he said, had Ajmal Amir Kasab not been caught alive, not my words, his words, had Ajmal Amir Kasab, that Pakistani terrorist, not been caught alive, the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks would have been dubbed as the handiwork of Hindu terrorists. Kasab was among that group of 10 that carried the attack on November 2008 and the lone lashkar-e-taiba to have been captured alive. They had been given Hindu names, red-colored strings. In his memoir, let me say it now, Rakesh Maria, who was heading the crime branch in CID and was investigating 26/11, he said Lashkar-e-Taiba wanted Kasab to be killed and it to be known that he was a Bengaluru resident called Samir Dinesh Chaudhary with a red thread tied around his wrist. They would have palmed it off as Hindu terror. But their plan did not succeed because of one person. And his name was Tukaram Ombole. Tukaram Ombole caught Kasab. He took a hail of bullets in his chest. Ajmal Amir Kasab fired his entire AK-47 rifle, entire magazine into his chest. So 28 bullets in his chest, but Tukaram Ombole continued to hold on to Ajmal Amir Kasab. He could not run away. He was caught alive. And that is how Rakesh Maria and the Mumbai police knew that he was from Faridkot in Pakistan. He said, and I quote, this is what Rakesh Maria wrote in his book, "If all had gone well, he, that is Kasab, would have been dead with a red string tied around his wrist like a Hindu. We would have found an identity card on his person with a fictitious name, Samir Dinesh Chaudhary, student of Arunoday Degree and PG College in Dilkhush Nagar in Hyderabad, 500060, resident of 254 Teachers Colony, Bengaluru." Maria writes, there would have been screaming headlines on newspapers claiming how Hindu terrorists have attacked Mumbai. Over-the-top TV journalists would have made a beeline for Bengaluru to interview his family and neighbors. 26/11 or 26/11 would have been passed off as Hindu terror. And this is shocking. This is shocking, Sushant Sareen. The evil that Pakistan is, their eye for meticulous detail is actually there for the world to see now.
Yeah, that's true, Gaurav. And the problem is that very often we ignore this demonic kind of an urge in the Pakistanis to carry out the kind of crimes they carry out against India, against Hindus in particular, but against India in general. And we tend to, miss out on how much of attention they pay on how they want to carry it out, so that they can assume this posture of plausible deniability, and then, pretend like all their third-rate so-called non-liberals in Pakistan do, giving these crocodile tears and stuff like that. I don't buy anything that comes from Pakistan. They're the most insincere and treacherous people that you can ever come across. So, but to give the devil their due, they do make these plots in a very meticulous manner. Also, look at the way they have given a sanctuary to terrorists like Tiger Memon and Dawood Ibrahim. Despite all international pressure, the Pakistanis have kept them in safe custody. They've ensured that nothing happens to them, nothing happens to people like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar and other third-rate terrorists that they associate with. So I think we need to give them that credit, which is why I say that we must have a legal system, Gaurav, whereby we can sentence these people and pronounce punishments on them in absentia, and then leave it to our agencies to mete out that punishment in whatever manner they deem fit and whatever manner necessary.
Absolutely. But Ratan Sharda, apologies for coming to you so late, but I want to understand from you, sir. Look at how evil their plan was. 10 Pakistani terrorists attack India, bleed India, and then the plan was to palm it off as Hindu terror. Finally, perhaps it will come out who were their local collaborators.
Gaurav, you will remember General Bipin Rawat's famous talk about 2.5 front war. That half front is much more dangerous than 2 fronts which are known to us. And this urge to create a Hindu terror myth began in 2007-8 by changing the entire complexion of the investigation in Malegaon and in Samjhauta Express. So then you had Colonel Purohit framed, you had Swami Asimanand framed, and many others framed, and let Pakistan off the hook. When you let a terror state off the hook, you find 2611 at our doors. And not only that, after that, within a month, how can a book be written? You have written books. Everybody sitting here has written books. Even research paper doesn't end in 1 month. You had an entire book of RSS's Sajish in a month, where everybody crowed about the RSS role, despite the clear-cut evidence of the person being a Muslim. I salute today Tukaram Ombole. Without him, we would have been. I shudder to think about what would have happened in this country had he not been able to capture Kasab alive. And they were made sacrificial goats. And deniability, talk about right from the tribal attack, so-called tribal attack in 1947. When has Pakistani taken onus of any of their own people? They have not even buried their own brave Jawans of Kargil. They were buried with honor by our own forces. And the half front we talk about now, already there are people are saying he should get very good, legal support. And there is a gentleman today, Prithviraj Chauhan, who who spoke in one of the channels saying this Tahawwur had a very good legal support and rights in USA. That's why he could be safe for so many years. Unlike India, where minorities have no rights. Now, this is the complexion of the game you will see in coming days.
And well, that's exactly what Tahawwar Hussain Rana had also said, that he's a Pakistani, he's a Muslim, and he's an ex-army captain. Sending him to India would be akin to signing his death warrant. But Mr. Jain, your appreciation, because I want to dwell for a moment on this bogey of Hindu terror that was floated by these 10 Pakistani terrorists. And, the point that Ratan Sharda raised, that soon we had a book called 2611 RSS Ki Sazish, despite screaming evidence that 2611 was the handiwork of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Pakistan's deep state?
Gaurav, I think Mr. Sharda has hit the nail on the head. I was the Inspector General of Police in Nasik Range when the first blast took place in Malegaon.
Yes.
We had arrested the accused who were the local conspirators. There's 2 accused who were supposed to be from Pakistan and who had left couple of days before the blast took place. So all these accused had been identified and prosecuted. Our findings were upheld by the ATS of Maharashtra and subsequently the CBI, which took over, and then it was NIA subsequently. But during the government of the day, when the blast of 2008 took place, they not only pinned the entire blame on the so-called Hindu terrorists, including Sadhvi Pragya and Colonel Purohit and the others. They also reopened the case of 2006, discharged all the accused, and made these alleged accused of 2008, the accused in 2006 conspiracy. With the result that today, the actual accused have been discharged from that case, some fake accused have been brought in and booked, and now that case will go to dogs. I mean, it has no future at all. And
Imagine.
subsequently, what happened in the Home Ministry? We have the ex-chief minister of Madhya Pradesh, who even today stands by his word, and this entire conspiracy of Bhagwa Atankawad was brought out. It is so damn unfortunate in this country. Why do we need
Yes.
enemies in Pakistan? We have enemies in this country who are prospering in this country itself. People like Digvijay Singh and people like, I don't
Okay,
want to name
so,
the other leaders. So there are
I
the
don't want to
people who are
name any
prospering in
leader
this
till an
country.
investigation. Yes, sir, you're absolutely
No,
right. I
but
don't want to name any
he
leader
was
till
there
an
at the
investigation is
inauguration of that
carried
book.
out and
Gaurav, he was at
completed.
the
We
inauguration of
hold.
that book.
Yes,
That
I
book,
hold
when it
Mr.
was
Digvijay Singh in his esteem, and perhaps he will clarify. He did try and clarify in Parliament when Sudhanshu Trivedi said, "I did not name anyone. Aapne udta tir kyun le liya?" And Union Home Minister Amit Shah also jumped into that. But Sushant Sareen, there's a precedent. Mr. Jain rightly pointed out to the first Malegaon blast case and said how it was changed. The same thing happened with Samjhauta, where Lashkar-e-Taiba's Arif Kasmani is mentioned in UN records, and that too was changed. Does that indicate India's rather strange approach to tackling Pakistan state-sponsored terror, Sushant Sareen?
So, Gaurav, I think the question we need to ask ourselves is why in the last 10 years, when this ambiguous approach towards terrorism has been given up, and we are ready to call a terrorist, regardless of what his caste, creed, or whatever his background is, why do you think the incidents of terrorism have come down so much? And before that period, you're talking about the Samjhauta Express blast, and I think that was really unfortunate because they tried to pin it on, a saint. They tried to pin it on some of the other Hindus. They had no evidence, none whatsoever. They manufactured evidence, and they gave the Pakistanis a clean chit. Okay, now I can't think of anything more treacherous than this to do to your own country. But even earlier in the '93 blast, what did we do? We had the then person in charge come on television and give an interview and say, well, we said not 12 blasts, but 13 blasts.
13
And why
blasts.
Muslim majority area? So that, we can say that this was a secular bomb attack. Is this secularism? Is this how you define secularism? Why do you think secularism has become a four-letter word in this country when you start batting for terrorists? Right? And you try and cover up their crimes under the carpet. You try and airbrush those kind of crimes. In my book, if somebody is responsible, please throw the book at him. I don't give a damn whether he's a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever he might be. Okay, but
Absolutely.
are you going to, for your political reasons and to even the scores with your political rivals, manufacture a conspiracy where none existed and give a bailout to your biggest enemy state, Pakistan, the guy who has been sponsoring terrorism and killing thousands of Indians? Are you going to do this? Now, if this is how you're going to run a country, then then that half front that Mr. Sharda has been talking about actually is a far more dangerous thing for India than anything else.
So, that half front, the more dangerous elements are those who give cover fire to Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror.